Hello and welcome to Vlad the Impaler. So I've never played this game before, but from what I've heard, there really is no gameplay. This is basically a graphic novel, sort of, where you can make your own decisions. So it's basically a choose your own adventure kind of game. So basically a visual novel where you make choices. So I guess we'll see how it goes. So I'm gonna save menu, if I can get a full screen. There we go. So there actually is a full screen mode. Sweet. Alright. I'll hold the music just a little bit. I always like to have the sound and other stuff louder than that. So let's go to main menu, click to begin, and let's do this. Alright. As the explorer, you have knowledge of the land. You are fast, on target, and adventurous. Will you be the enemy spy or the diplomatic emissary? Alright, so 7 dexterity, 6 agility. Soldier. Soldier is fierce and strong. Fill your knight's duty to the kingdom or unlock your dark side and become the assassin. The mage is skilled, wise, and supernatural. Become the high priest specializing in protective magic or the sorcerer with a thirst for destruction. Ooh. I kind of want to go with the soldier. I like the assassin bit right there. Alright, select a slot. Assuming this is like a safe slot.
My friend, I have need of your skills once again. Darkness has fallen upon the city of Istanbul. Blood paints the streets, and the cries of the dying rise from the night. The Sultan himself will not set foot within its walls until the dread curse is lifted. Holy men, knights, and inquisitors have all been sent, yet none have returned. You are the only one whom I trust to investigate this. Your cunning, your prowess, and your penchant for results are needed here more than ever. Find the source of this wickedness, and deal with it as only you can. Godspeed, my friend, and watch your back.
Alright, so that's a message from Vlad. Here's hoping that the rest of the game is going to be voice acted, because my throat is... I don't know if I can handle this right now, but we'll see. Chapter 1. Oh, I guess I do have to read it. Okay. You pass through the gates of Istanbul on a moonless night. The lights from torches are few, and the eyes of midnight wanderers are many. A group of guards huddle around the body of a woman, her head ripped out and used to paint a tall, bloody 15 days on the wall behind her. The weight of fear is heavy on the streets. The scent of death haunts the tight air. Is the city under siege, and the enemy is invisible? It'd be nice if it, like, hid my mouse icon. Is there a way to do that? Nah, probably there's, like, a program I can do for that, but I don't want to do that right now. Okay. So here's our character. Hit the head. Hit the hearts. Maybe I want to focus on hitting the head. Oh, okay. It just tells me that kind of stuff. Morality. I haven't really done anything for that. Let's check out the port. This is the office of the dock master. Your investigation leads you to the harbor of Istanbul. It is shortly after dusk by the time you arrive at the office of the dock master. Luckily, ships arrive at all hours, so you presume that someone will be there to help you. When you come upon the small building, you see light through the windows, knock briskly on the door. There is no response. You test the door, find that it is locked. Okay, so I think some of this needs to be kind of corrected grammar-wise. Like this, you see light through the windows, knock briskly on the door. Like maybe like a period, you knock briskly on the door, there's no response, you test the door and find that it is locked. I've heard that this isn't like an English original game, so maybe that's why the translation is a little bit off. You can wait for him to break in and search for the manifest you need. While you wait, you watch as a small skiff quietly rows up to a distant pier. A group of cloaked men hurry off the boat, and the two rowers immediately push off back into the Bosphorus. The group of hoods disappear between the dark buildings, but you notice the last one toss his cloak aside as he enters his narrow alley. The man is wearing armor. They must be knights, sneaking into Istanbul from some ship anchored off the coast. You immediately head after them, but by the time you reach the alleyway, they are long gone. You've missed your chance to tail them, but you've now learned how they're getting into the city. Alright, we got intelligence. That's good. Ask around for information. Guess we can check the bazaar. Get some a baklava. Find a bookseller. Buy a falafel. Search for the head of the guard. Wander at nightfall. So I guess we can ask around for information. You head down to the docks, intending on questioning people about the rash of horrific murders that have been happening. You can tell that people are on edge. They are gathering in greater numbers, even during the day, but few of them will talk to you. Just as you are about to head to a different district, a chorus of gasps and shrieks erupt from further down the pier. You run toward the commotion, a crowd forming around a large fishing boat. There, caught in a net with a day's catch, it's one of the strangest creatures you have ever seen. It looks like a cross between a fish and a serpent, but it is over 12 feet long. Its eyes are deep red, its powerful jaws are lined with imposing sharp fangs. Several people cross themselves, despite the fact that it is clearly dead. The man next to you, who is a merchant you've seen in the bazaar, I haven't been to the bazaar, says, "Never did I believe that I would see a Judas fish during my lifetime. I'll pay you 40 gold coins for it." The fisherman accepts, but says he won't touch it. The merchant then says, "Another 30 silver coins to the man who will carry it back to my tent." Let's take him up on his offer. "I'll carry it," you say. The merchant. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna have to be careful how I read this. I might have to read some of this twice, just because the grammar's off. "I'll carry it," you say. The merchant thanks you profusely. The fisherman releases a net, spilling the array of fish into the pier. The Judas fish unrolls to its full dead length amid several other gasps. You walk up to it. If you don't know any better, you say that it was looking directly at you with its dead red eyes. You then draw your sword and slice its head off. The crowd shrieks again as the body suddenly flops and flares, the beast clearly having only been playing dead. Blood sprays everywhere, followed by the last meal that the creature had, a chewed up and dissected fisherman. The merchant looks at you, enraged. "I did not say to butcher it." "That's true," you reply, resheathing your weapon. "You never did specify the condition you wanted it in when you got to your tent." You pick up the bleeding head with one hand and sling the long body over your shoulder with the other. The merchant is fuming, but seems to be a little afraid of you now. He curses silently and leads the way. Alright, sweet. Let's find a local fisherman. Okay, so I have 12 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I should be able to probably do all these. You make your way through the port of Istanbul as the sun goes down. There's a fisherman who may have information on people being sold and smuggled out of the port. As you search for his berth, along the multitude appears. You hear a voice calling out to you. Turning, you find a woman cinched into a European dress, waving at you from a docked ship. "Pardon me," she says in a German accent, "but would you have a moment to assist my lady?" Curious, you call back. "What seems to be the problem?" "My Contessa is ill and needs help leaving the boat. Would you please be so kind?" This feels like a trap, but let's do it. You board the ship. The lady takes you to the main cabin. There, reclining on a large bed, is one of the most beautiful young women you've ever seen. Her flowing brunette locks dance across the pillow as she turns towards you. "I apologize," she says, "but I haven't the stomach for sea travel. Could you please carry me to the pier?" "It would be my honor," you reply. Gather up her lithe form in your strong arms. Her delicate hands drape around your neck. As you carry her off the boat and onto the pier, a carriage has arrived since you went aboard. You carefully deposit the Contessa inside, next to a black woman in a colorful turban. "There you are, Contessa." You say? Oh, okay. I'm saying it to her. I thought it was the black woman was responding to me, or saying like, "Oh, there you are." So there you are, Contessa. You say, but then realize that you haven't been properly introduced yet. Her eyes meet yours. Karnstein, she replies. Carmela Karnstein, of Styria. You kiss her hand in the European fashion. Welcome to Istanbul, Contessa, you say. She leans in and kisses you on the cheek. Then the brutish coachman cracks his whip and the horses pull the coach away into the city. When it has gone, you resume your search for the fisherman. You find him 2 piers down and ask what he knows about people being bought and smuggled. I'm not talking to any life of the upper, he hisses. What do you mean, you ask. Up here, he spits back. Vampire. They cannot cross running water except at noon and midnight, unless someone carries them over it. He crosses himself and walks away from you. Oh, so she was a vampire. Alright, so we start from chapter 1. I got that. Okay, yeah, I can't do anything. It's just the way it is. Alright. Chapter 2. Evidence you've collected. What evidence? I haven't collected any evidence so far. The evidence you've collected lays spread on the table before you. Your meal from the tavern downstairs sits half eaten as you try to make sense of the results of your encounters. That's when you sense the presence behind you. On instinct, you spin on the side just as a knife passes through the air where you've been standing. All of your weapons are across the room, save the one that no one ever expects. You. With singular speed and deft strikes, you grapple with the hooded assassin, keeping the jagged knife just beyond the slice of your flesh, until at last you gain that crucial advantage and flip your attacker over onto the table, breaking it to splinters in the process. The assassin lies still. Pulling back his mask, you find a horrible slackness in his head, the result of a broken neck. His face is European. Around his neck is a silver cross with a tiny dragon curled around it. In his pocket, you find a small bound copy of the Exorcist's Doctrine, a piece of folded paper. There's a letter with the name of the inn where you are staying, as well as your room number. Excellent, you think to yourself. People are trying to kill me, then I must be getting somewhere. You may now enter catacombs. Okay. Just want to see if there's anything else here. I can explore at night. Let's check here. The Basilisa? The Basilisa? I don't know if that's how I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but there we go. It's enormous. Its vaulted ceilings arch high above massive pillars of stone. You walk along the far wall, past the kneeling faithful of the city who are praying for relief. In a remote corner, beneath the golden wickerary, you see an old woman slowly putting out candles with her fingers. Ask her if you can help with anything. Can I perhaps get you your own candle? You ask. The old woman inquires in a cracked voice, saying, Each of these was lit before the eyes of Saint Lucy, who are here in this shrine. She sees the prayers of all who kneel in this spot, yet have been prayers of late which are ugly and must not be answered. When the old woman turns, you see that there are hollow sockets where her eyes should be. Pointing a bony finger to your chest, she says, But you see things too, don't you? Be warned, the ghosts of the city do not like to be seen, but like St. Lucy, someone must keep their eyes open. She then turns and hobbles off down the aisle. Alright, so we got a charm. Attend the evening mass. You enter the Balicia shortly after dusk. Evening mass is in session, as the priest reads from the book of Revelations. You walk along the outside of the piers, analyzing the practitioners who have gathered, searching for any sign of the unusual. Your eyes only land on a man sitting in the middle of a pew, whose throat is pouring blood from a gaping gash. Race to the man to try and check for evidence before anyone else notices, and panic breaks out. Wait for someone else to notice, then watch the reactions of the people around him for clues. Ooh, both of these are good. Guess this one. You leap over the pews, jumping to the dying man as his eyes roll back in his head. Your agile bounding draws attention to the man. Screams suddenly erupt from the church. The front of his tunic is soaked in blood by the time you reach him. You immediately begin going through his pockets, searching for anything. The frightened churchgoers move back in panic, with many racing to the doors. Nothing of interest seems to be on his person, but after a quick glance around, you notice a small lettered journal on the floor behind his pew. There are 2 bloody fingerprints on it. The assassin must have been after the book, but dropped it in panic when they saw you leaping across the church toward them. Rifling through the book, you find a list of names. Each name has a date beside it. Flipping to the front page, you see a few words in Greek, which translate to the missing. Okay. I guess we'll clear this out. You're visiting the Basilica before sundown when you notice a group of altar boys gathered around a corner. They seem to be up to something, but you can't tell what. When the priest finally calls for them, they run off, giggling and shoving each other. You approach the small table where they had been gathered around an open box. Peering inside, you find a mouse. The mouse is desperately trying to get out of the box, but the boys have covered the poor thing in lamp oil, so it's just slipping helplessly off to the sides. That's messed up. Let's free him. Remembering the mouse that you used to feed at the orphanage, you put the little creature out of the box and put it in your pocket. Once you're outside the Balicia, I can never get that word right, man. You set it free in an alley. As it scampers away, you remember how difficult it can be for a creature so small to get out of going to church. Okay. Chapter 3. The orphan with the eye patch scurries silently across the dark rooftops to where you are perched. My imam says that the amulet you drew is the symbol of the Holy Order of the Knights of the Dragon. You eye the smudge-faced child and ask, how can that be? Why would a holy knight try to kill me? You show the silver amulet to the orphan, allowing him to look it over. My imam says that the symbol here belongs to the Holy Order of the Knights of the Dragon. Yeah, okay, same thing. The orphan smiles with a few missing teeth and says, Crusaders trying to kill you, eh? Now you know how it is to live in Istanbul. You throw a gold coin to the child. He nods in appreciation, then disappears silently across rooftops. You hold the silver pendant up and look at it, dangling against the skyline of the city below. Order of the Dragon. I still have no idea what's going on. We now enter the palace. Alright, so that's all done. 3. Okay, so we have 8 places. 1, 2. You know, let's finish up the port. Ooh. While walking through the city or parts of the port of Istanbul at night, you stumble across a horrific sight. A young woman has been mutilated in the middle of a dark alley. Her internal organs removed and positioned in a circle around her. Her clothes suggest that she was a working girl, one of the many whores that frequent the docks at night. This is the 12th whore who has been killed in recent weeks, all of them butchered in a ritualistic way. But this is the first body you have actually seen with your own eyes. The look of terror still etched on her soft face. Of all the murders and disappearances happening in the city, these seem to be the most consistent, the most deliberate, as a lead that you can firmly grasp onto. Try and catch the killer in the act. Analyze the clues in order to find the killer before he strikes again. One of the booksellers in the port specializes in obscure occult texts. When you show him a drawing of the murdered girl, he fetches a very old book. Translated from the Greek, it is called The 13 Names of God. In it are listed 13 macabre rituals for sacrificing sinners in order to begin the countdown of revelations. The 12 rituals describe the 12 ritual describes the exhumation of the sinner's internal organs. arranged in a circle around the body to invoke the second to last name of the Almighty. The overweight bookseller then shivers when he tells you that the butcher 3 doors down has recently been coming to the bookshop. This is one of the books he's been reading. A butcher fits the way the killings seem to have been happening. You pay the man a visit just as he is locking up his store for the night. Dragging him into the alley, you confront him. The wary Turkish man denies being the killer. He says that he has been reading the occult books in order to try and learn what evil has taken over his city. You question him about the horse. He lets it slip that he knows the 4th one had her throat removed, only to be stuffed with her fingers. You drag the man to the city guard and turn him in, telling them your evidence. They immediately lock the butcher up. You're not convinced that he is a man who did it, but if no more killings happen while he is in jail, then you will have been proven right. Alright, so that's done. Let's do this. Get some baklava. You're wandering through Istanbul Bazaar, eating a piece of honey-dyed baklava when you notice a little girl watching you from a few tents away. She looks as though she's coveting the sticky dessert that is getting all over your fingers. You give her a slight smile of condolence. Then, hands suddenly emerge from a secret fold in the tent behind the girl. Pull her inside without a sound. Yeah, the grammar in this game is off. They really need to get someone to edit this. Of all the abductions that you've been following in the city, you never thought you'd actually witness one happening. You walk over to the front of the tent, finishing off the last of your dessert. "Welcome, my friend," says a smiling merchant in a turban. "Are you in need of a lamp or oil?" Tell the merchant that whoever is holding the girl in the tent had better release her right now before you summon the city guard. First, go inside and handle the kidnapper directly. Merchant's eyes darken. He says, "We are paid up for the month already. Will not submit to your order's bullying." This grabs your interest. Clearly, someone higher up in the order is running a protection money scheme, where people who break the law can continue without being handed over as long as they pay regularly. As the man thinks you're with the order, you look the merchant dead in the eye, saying, "You think this is bullying? Want to pay triple next time? Give me the girl." The merchant nods and acquiesces, motions for you to enter the tent. You do so, drawing your weapon. The girl and the man who took her are nowhere to be found. They've clearly escaped while the merchant kept you busy. The next thing you hear is the merchant calling to the city guards, saying there's a thief in his tent. You've been outconned this time. Need to escape before the guards find you and decide to cut off your hands. With minimal searching, you find the secret fold in the back where the kidnapper must have escaped, and you slip through. Your heart breaks for the girl as you disappear into the crowd, vowing that the merchant and his accomplices will be brought to justice. Oh, I lost the charm. I should have just charged back there. Okay. Find a bookseller. You enter the tent of a bookseller in a brazier. The owner sits stoically on a large pillow. His face is cracked with wrinkles. His beard is full of gray and black. He motions for you to sit across from him. His nephew offers you Turkish coffee. As both of you have sipped from your cups, the nephew politely asks what information his uncle can help you with. I know more sensible. I need to know if a plague of violence like this has ever been seen before. The old bookseller points across the tent. The nephew dutifully runs over to that shelf, pulls out a particular volume, and hands it to you. The cover reads, "The Slaughter of Trigovisti." I hope I pronounced that right. Inside, the pages are filled with stories of the Romanian city that was beset by mass murders, witch hunts, abductions, exorcisms, dark creatures laying waste to the population. Eventually, the city descended into complete depravity until a mighty hero arrived and restored order, chasing all of the dark powers away. The name of that hero is one you are well acquainted with, Vlad the Impaler of Wallachia. I can't say that word. It would seem as though your deeds have caused you to build up quite a reputation. People seem comfortable in your presence and offer to buy you drinks at the inn. One particular keen musician even sings a song about the wandering knight. Alright, my charm went up by 1. Sweet, looks like I got more armor. Charm went up by 8. Chapter 4. Descend the cramped staircase below the city streets. At the bottom, you are faced with a heavily armored man in a dark hood. If you're right, everything you've witnessed so far is to be believed, then the answers you need are on the other side of the gate that this man is guarding. If you're wrong, then he will certainly kill you. Charm the guard, attack the guard head on. Show him the silver cross. Gambling with your life, you reach around your neck and produce the silver amulet of the cross and dragon. The man nods, then opens the gate for you to pass within. As you plunge deeper beneath the city, you breathe in relief. Your plan has worked. He thinks you're a knight from the Order of the Dragon, but all your bravado fades as you enter their secret sanctum. Hooded men and women kneel in rows, murmuring twisted prayers to the silver dragon crosses in their hands. On the walls hang bodies, mutilated in ritualistic ways, with symbols painted in their own blood. Symbols that you have seen all across your encounters in the city. Symbols from the Exorcist doctrine. You dare not stay long enough to be recognized. Besides, you now know who is behind the atrocities. The question on your mind as you duck up a shadowy staircase is why. Okay. Hunt the cannibal kidnapper. Tell someone suspicious. Look for markings. Try to find someone. Blindly continue. Sneak through the shallow. Search for old. Can wait till nightfall. Investigate a crime scene. I want to investigate a crime scene. The moon bathes the square of Istanbul in a haunting light. You move across the cobblestones among the few late night wanderers of the city. You wonder what keeps them up so late. You yourself are visiting the scene of a crime. Yesterday morning, a girl was found dead in the middle of the square. She had been stabbed 98 times by a narrow blade, all in a fashion that fell to her body with 49 tiny crucifix wounds. You know that merely seeing the place where she died will not give you any answers as to who killed her. But you always find that your mind works best when you can walk around a place, seeing the sight lines and trying to get into the mind of the killer. You find the spot where the girl was left. There are still traces of blood, here and there in the cracks of the stone. You wonder why the killer would have risked dragging her body out into such a public place. When last night's moon was full, he could have been seen. As you pace around the scene, feeling the space, you become acutely aware that you are being watched. Turn to see a teenage girl in a heavy cloak. She looks European. She also looks sad as she stares at the spot on the ground where the body was found. The crime scene and walk her home so that she doesn't meet the same fate. Let her stay and grieve. It's dangerous to be out alone in this town, you say, especially at night. Let me walk you home. You take the girl by the arm and lead her away. As you walk, you ask her if she knew the girl who was murdered. She doesn't reply. In fact, she never says anything. She does, however, seem to know where she's going. After an hour or so, you come to an upscale house just up the hill from the river. This is where you live? You ask. The girl simply points to the front door. You lead her up the stairs and knock on the heavy door. A minute or two passes as lights slowly flicker on inside the house. A small window opens at the top of the door. A man's face looks out through a thick mesh. Who is it? He asks in a Hungarian accent. I found the lady of the house, you say. She was alone in the square just now. I escorted her home. The window closes and you hear locks being pulled back. When the door opens, you see the man dressed in a robe and carrying a lantern. He is older than you, with a tightly groomed gray beard, a scar across his eye. Who did you say you found? He asks. This young lady here. You turn to discover that the girl is gone. You look around. It seems impossible. There was a number of steps she would have needed to run down in order to escape. She was just standing next to you a second ago. I don't see anyone, says the man. Who are you? What's your game coming here all at this hour? You turn back to the man standing there in the door. He looks at you with cunning eyes. Behind him, you see a svelte woman in a thin white gown appear from the shadows. Is everything all right, my lord? She asks. I'm not sure, he replies, studying you up and down. The longer you stand there, the more you feel as if a strange supernatural prank were being played on you. My mistake, you say, turning to go. I should say so, the man replies, closing the door. I lose charm for that? Okay. What do we want to do? In the dark corner of the bazaar, there is a black tent. Rumor says that it only appears at night. The smell of frankincense is always heavy around it. After 3 nights of searching, you finally spy it at the end of a closely packed row. Summoning your courage, you pull back the beads and enter. Dim candles flicker within. Chests and racks are filled with all manner of strange and exotic items. The thick incense begins to make your head swim as you peruse jars with tiny creatures inside. Books with strange covers, ornate boxes, all locked with tiny keyholes. What is it that you seek? Comes a sinister voice. You turn to find a man in black robes and a black turban suddenly standing there. Something about his eyes seem wrong. What is this place, you ask? Who are you? The man in the turban says, I am a merchant, like any other, but I only raise my tent in a place that has fallen far enough into darkness for my wares to be traded. I have something for you as well, but first you must tell me what you seek. I seek to save a symbol. I seek to punish whoever is responsible for these horrors. The man nods from beneath his turban and walks over to a shelf. He unlocks a wooden box and with a small key turns to hand it to you. Oh, okay, yeah. The grammar in this is just... Cautiously, you open the box. Inside, reclining on a bed of red velvet, is a spike made of pure silver. Strange markings have been stamped into the side of it. What is it for, you ask? Your enemy, he replies. And perhaps your friends as well. Your head is starting to swim from the incense. What do I owe you for it? You ask. Oh, I have already taken payment, he replies. Don't remember anything after that when you sit up in bed the next morning. Rubbing your throbbing head, you pull the box over and open it. The silver stake just lies there. Strangely, you feel better armed than you did when first arriving in Istanbul. So we lost intelligence and we lost some con. Alright. Tell someone suspicious. We haven't got to the palace. You receive an invitation to come to the palace of the Sultan and visit with the El-Hirif, the royal artist community. Being a sketch artist yourself, this is a remarkable opportunity. To passing through the gates, courtyards, and corridors of the palace, you emerge into a building unlike any other you've seen. Everywhere, painters, sculptors, poets, dancers create their masterpieces under the direct sponsorship of the Sultan. At last, you are introduced to a man named Azim, who is the head of the Hel-I-Khafir. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. Welcome, my friend, he says. I have heard through my means that you are trying to discover the truth about the curse that has befallen Istanbul. As such, there is a question I would like to ask you. Please ask it, you reply. Azim says, why would a foreigner such as yourself wish to save our city? No friend of mine asks me to. I never let a friend down, because people deserve to live free of wickedness no matter where they are from. Azim nods and says, I was hoping to hear you say that. Follow me. You follow Azim to one of the towers of the artist's building. When he opens the door, you witness a grisly scene. An artist has killed himself, using his own blood to paint the last few strokes of an enormous painting. What happened here, you ask? Azim replies, Yosef was brilliant. But when the killings began in the city, he changed. His mind grew sick. Then some weeks ago, he locked himself in here and commenced on this. You look up at the painting on the wall. It is both brilliant and frightening at the same time. A castle high on a mound, with dark clouds raining blood across the surrounding lands. Wolfmen and other monsters emerge from the shadowy corners of the painting. You think it's an omen, you ask. I think you are more of an expert than I am, Azim replies. You look down at the bloody artist lying against the wall beneath the masterwork. Clearly he was moved by something. Okay, we lost charm. It's that probably our total. The RNG in this seems weird. Like I'm losing traits for stuff that I don't feel like I should. Your weapon clings sharply against the sword of the bearded knight. A shingle gives way under your foot, and you barely manage to adjust your weight before you slide off the roof to certain death. The knight presses his attack. You're forced backward along the dome of the Hagia Sophia Mosque. Shove him off the roof, invoke wind magic. My magic is 7. Disarm him and hold him for questioning. You run to the knight to offer him a hand up, knowing that he has dropped his weapon and might have valuable information. Your name will be added to the list of the judge is what it should say. The knight threatens. You will join your heathen brothers and sisters, impaled on the pikes of hell, and your sultan will at last feel the fires of the master he serves. With that, his hand slips and he plummets screaming to the earth below. As you look down on his broken body, impaled onto one of the spikes of the mosque's fence, you realize what his final words pretend. They are going to assassinate the sultan. The artwork in this game is pretty cool. Alright, maybe we should go to the palace and warn the sultan? I don't think we can, though. Search for a kidnapper. I'm guessing once that timer runs out, that's the end of the game. I have no idea what the story is. We're trying to find someone, obviously. We're trying to find out why the city is going to ruins, but the story feels kind of all over the place. You've been invited to the palace to something called the Visitors' Council. As any invitation to the palace is an opportunity to learn more, you accept. What you find that night is a large forum filled with people from all over Europe and the Middle East, all discussing the state of the city, what is to be done about it. There does not, however, seem to be any format or structure to the gathering, which strikes you as strange. How is this council supposed to get anything accomplished? It's at that moment that you notice a European woman standing in a far doorway. There is something striking about her. She's looking right at you. She then motions with her finger for you to follow, disappears around the corner. You're considering following when you hear someone call you. You turn and see a crowd of men sitting around on couches amidst the gatherings. One of them says, "You're the one who's investigating the murders, aren't you? Come, tell us what you found." I'm going to follow the woman. You follow the woman through a kiosk to a private residence on the palace grounds. She leads you into a small courtyard where another stunning young woman is bathing in a pool by moonlight. When she sees you, she emerges, her brown hair clinging to her back and shoulders. "I was hoping you'd come," she says. "Were you?" you reply. "Indeed, since the moment I saw you." The woman whom you followed opens a saint robe, and the woman from the pool slips into it. "You may go," she says. The woman you followed bows, saying, "Countess Karnstein." She and the other servants leave. Then it is merely you, the Countess. It should be she and the other students leave. Now it is merely, then it is merely you, the Count, and the Countess. Or it could be she and the other servants leave. Now it is just you and the Countess. Like, I don't know. The grammar in this is not the greatest. I get it. Like, this is, I believe, Russian? No. I'm thinking of another game. I don't know. I don't think this is English originally. I could be wrong. But, I mean, if it is, they really need to find an editor. She sits down on the She sits down on a couch, pours a glass of wine. She holds it up for you. Join me, she asks. Her gaze is compelling. You walk over and sit next to her, taking the wine. You notice that she doesn't pour one for herself. The Count runs a hand through your hair. Yep, I can already feel my throat starting to give. You're very beautiful for a warrior, she says. Thank you, you reply. She smiles, cocking her head to the side as her hand rests on your cheek. But something tells me you've gone too long since anyone told you that. You tuck your hair behind your ear. I'm not the type who needs a lot of compliments, you reply. She leans in, whispering, No, you're a woman of action. It's in your blood. I'm guessing she's a vampire? Her lips brush against yours. You stab your dagger into her heart. She goes rigid, collapsing to the couch as her eyes become pure white. Her fangs elongate through her stone-like paralysis. I was fooled by a vampire once, you say. Never again. You draw your weapon and slice her head from her shoulders. Blood pools out across the sofa as you stand. You swallow the glass of wine in one gulp. Setting the glass on the table, you wipe the blood from your sword. Walk away, having rid Istanbul from at least one hungry darkness. Alright. Hunt the cannibal kid. Nah, yeah, sure. You have just killed the cannibal kidnapper of Bayazit. After pursuing him for 3 days, you finally caught up with him outside the bazaar, just as he had found his next victim. You lift the kidnapped boy into your arms and check him for wounds. There's a nasty bite in his shoulder, but that seems to be the worst of it. You pull your weapon out of the kidnapper's corpse. His head lolls to the side. His pointy, filed-down teeth still appear menacing from inside his slack mouth. You carry the boy out of the hot alley and back into the covered bazaar, weaving through pillars and tents until you come to where his parents sell their wares. His mother and father cry out in relief as they run to you, taking the child and holding him close. Thank you, the father says desperately. Heaven be praised. You've saved my little Farah. How can I repay you? You wave a hand, saying, A life spared from the horrors of this city is payment enough for me. No, replies the man as the boy's mother rushes with her son back to the tent. No, I must insist. Please come. Look, serve the Raja from darkest India, which will make the drinker 3 times the warrior they once were. While we thought bizarre, the drinker with the wisdom of the ancients. Oof. Yeah. The apothecary hands you the pewter bottle with the emerald stopper and thanks you from the deepest corners of his heart. The potion tastes of cedar, potash, nutmeg, but a certain clarity begins to open in your mind. You find things you've never noticed before. Everywhere you look, the meaning of people's words seem much plainer to you now. Alright. So I guess this is the final turn. Look for markings, finally continue, try to find someone. Search the cellar. Ooh, infiltrate the ship the damned. Does it change every time I go there? Yeah, it seems to go up. Alright. It is night when you emerge from black waters of the port of Istanbul, scaling the anchor chain of the dread ship in silence. You can hear the soft whimpering and crying of people coming from deep within the hold. When you reach the deck of the vessel, you slip over the side. Your first act is to slice open the throat of the starboard guard. He gurgles his last breath beneath the hand you have clasped over his mouth. You look up at the red sails, battered down in the still night air, as you quietly drag the guard behind some crates. You have successfully infiltrated the ship of the damned. Let's wait for the captain to take over the ship, free the prisoners first. You descend stealthily into the hold. There your eyes are met with the spectacle of sadism. 100 people of all races and ages are manacled to the walls via an intricate system of chains and pulleys. They scream and cry as a number of Istanbul's more sadistic nobility carry out their most depraved fantasies of cruelty and torture. A number of guards in red sashes watch on with whips and cudgels just in case any of the slaves get out of hand. You notice a young Istanbul girl just being taken out of a cage and linked up to the chain. Just behind her, a fat European-looking man waits with raw anticipation and hot branding iron. Your path is clear. The guards need to go first. With cunning speed, you kill the first two before anyone seems to be the wiser. Third puts up a fight, but he's only armed for beating prisoners, whereas you are armed for killing men. He goes down a spray of red, and several more run toward you. The nobles scramble away, attempting to flee up the stairs, when suddenly you hear the screeching of wheels and metal cogs. A moment later, every single one of the manacled slaves are violently yanked toward the aft of the boat. They scream as they are pulled along. You turn to see them drug one after another out a window in the back of the ship. The sound of splashing cut off their screams. You realize to your utter horror that the chains are connected to a pair of anchors. One of the guards has thrown the switch to drop them. A moment later, the last of the slaves are yanked out of the hatch, disappear beneath the current of the Bosphorus. The guards get in several good strikes on you, only barely manage to get away from them. As you make your way up the steps and onto the deck, you see a commanding woman still pulling on her tunic as she points at you. "Seize him!" she screams. "Yes, Captain," comes the reply from the massive one-eyed man at her side. You spit in their direction and leap onto the railing, shouting, "Sail to the edge of the world! I will still burn this ship into the sea." And with that, you leap into the cold black waters, temporarily defeated. Okay, I'm guessing I gained no charm from that. Chapter 6. Sultan Mehmed II is just sitting down into the water of the palace's grand bath, and one of the maidens attending him loops a length of silver cord around his throat. Throw a dagger into the assassin's heart, slice the assassin's head off, curse the assassin with weakness, let the guards handle it. You leap from behind the tapestry where you were hiding and hurl a dagger directly at the assassin's spine, but she hears your attack and jumps to the side, leaving your fine dagger to ebb itself into the back of the Sultan's head. The assassin pauses for a second, pleasantly surprised look on her face before fleeing the room. God damn it. Can I? Nah, I can't go back. Well, I fucked up. The guards rush in as she leaves you, immediately know it's all over. Accident or not, you've killed the Sultan. The guards seek revenge, their swords biting into you again and again as they tear you to pieces. Okay. So there's the end for that. Okay. You know what? Let's try again. We're gonna try some things differently. But yeah, there's the end of my first attempt. Alright, here we go. So this is where we failed last time. So basically, the Sultan is bathing, and last time we threw a dagger at the assassin's heart. What happens if we slice the assassin's head off? Assassin gives a final pull and slices through the Sultan's throat. She ducks, your sword slasher flees her room. Starts to stammer an explanation. They tear you to pieces. Alright. So we failed again in the same spot as last time. And I can't continue from that. Alright. Let's go again. So last time we threw a dagger, and then we tried to slice his head off. Let's see if we can curse assassin with weakness. Wasting no time, you quickly focus on the would-be assassin and recite the curse of Yabash Khan. The assassin's arms fall slack, the curse sapping her strength away as she struggles to pull the cord taut. Spotting his opening, the Sultan rips the cord out of her hands, flips her underwater, and slices her throat open. A few minutes pass as the bath turns crimson with her blood before the Sultan reaches back underwater and pulls her head out. "What is the meaning of all this?" the Sultan murmurs, inspecting the head. You lean over and spin it around to show a tattoo on the back of her neck. They call her Ezmiju. It means dragon in Romanian. The Sultan's face turns from red to white as he sees the symbol of the many-headed dragon on her neck. He then fishes Assassin's cord out of the water to find a silver dragon cross dangling from the end of it. The Order of the Dragon. Yes, Your Majesty, you reply. They are the forces behind the bloodshed in Istanbul. I have learned through my investigations that they have been waging a bloody inquisition across your city, torturing and killing anyone they perceive to be evil. And in doing so, they have descended into a darkness greater than that which they sought to purge. The Sultan looks up at you. The Order of the Dragon does not move without the command of their secret master. You nod, placing the severed head onto the silver plate. Whoever that master is would have the weight of all this bloodshed on his hands. The Sultan gazes up at you. Okay. Having the Sultan gazes up at you and the Sultan looks up at you in the same paragraph, it's just not good writing. Indeed, becoming the greatest of all monsters, I know the name of that man, for I have faced him before. He is Vlad Dracul, Prince of, I can't say that word, known as the Impaler, you reply, finishing the Sultan's sentence. You know of him? You nod sadly. He is the one who asked me to come here, searching for a great evil, the same as his knights. The Sultan's Janissary guards finally swarm the room. A dozen spears are pointed in your direction. Hold, shouts Sultan Mehmed. This is a hero. More than that, a hero with one last task to complete. The Sultan turns back to you. For, unless I missed my guess, you are the type of person who finishes what they begin. It's with the heavy head that you nod, because he's right. Okay. Choose your weapon. I guess this, because my dexterity magic seems to be... can I look at my stats? I don't know. Okay. I guess we'll go with this. Sultan leaves the room for a moment, stepping into the shadow. He returns carrying an item that he holds with great esteem and presents it to you. It takes a great deal of strength to fight the way you do, the Sultan states. Take this and allow its power to guide you. With judgment in court is not possible, wielding this weapon usually gets justice served. I wish I was strong enough to swing it myself. Okay. Journey to the castle. You leave behind a city still in the grip of darkness. Despite all you have done on its streets and in its shadowy corners, there's only one way to truly save it. You trek across Ottoman country in Odoris, I don't know. By day, bandits hound you as if having specifically been given your name. At night, things crawl out of the shadows with teeth like knives, only to be kept at bay by the circles you draw upon the ground around you. It is harrowing, you sleep little, but as you climb through the mountainous forests of Transylvania, you at last find the road you once climbed as a friend. An evening in the twisting twilight landscape, there are still a few flowers to be seen along the road. You pick the few that catch the last light of the waning sun, but as you round the final bend, Vlad's castle comes into view. You once stayed there as a welcome friend. Now it seems to stare at you in hunger, as if the very stones were luring you into the gaping mouth of the inner gate. The portcullis clashes down behind you as you enter the dead walls. You know for a fact that there is now only one way you'll ever leave Count Dracula, and death is not it. Alright, so this is the farthest we've ever gone, so everything from here on out is new. I'm hoping I chose the right sword. Alright, I guess there's only one thing to do. Front gates to the castle swing wide open as if operated by phantoms. You know that to show any fear would be fatal, so you square your draw your weapon, step across the threshold. The main antechamber is dark, but just as your eyes are beginning to adjust, 100 candles flare to life. Cobwebs crisscross the high ceiling, but you can still make out the mural painted there, the sweeping depiction of Vlad as a younger man, leading his force of Wallachian soldiers across the vast armies of the Sultan. You remember how much he looked like a savior in that painting, when sunlight would fill the dorm. But now, by flickering candlelight, he appears more like a horseman of the apocalypse. Who goes there? Comes a voice from the balcony above you. You look up to find a rugged-looking man with a full beard and dark eyes staring down at you. Come to see Prince Vlad, you say. I'm a friend. I suspect he's been expecting me. The man's mouth twists up into a smile. He has been expecting you. To die. The man then leaps over the railing, but when he hits the floor, it is on all fours in the shape of an enormous werewolf. With a frightening growl, he charges you. Attack the wolf, dodge the wolf. Dodge? Knowing full well that, without silver, you don't stand a chance against this beast, you decide on a different tactic. You run directly toward the charging wolf, ready to swing. Then just as it leaps into the air, you drop to the floor, sliding under it. The wolf sails over you, landing unharmed on the other side of the room. It spins to come back at you, but you have already regained your feet and are running through the archway that leads deeper into the castle. As you run through, however, you drop a handful of the flowers that you picked up on your way up the road. The wolf slides to an enraged stop right in front of the flowers. He begins to bark madly. You cannot cross because the flowers are wolfsbane. Now you are ready to plunge deeper into the castle, while he will have to circle around by other routes to try and catch up to you, and by that time, you fully intend on finding something silver. Turn away from the pacing beast, descend into the lower halls. Okay. As you enter the castle chapel, you're surprised to see just how greatly it has fallen into despair. It wasn't more than 10 years ago that you attended mass in the very place, yet it looks as though centuries have passed. The pews have split and warped. The altar has overgrown with lice. The crucifix has been shattered. Dust and ash cover everything. Most disturbingly, however, is that the tombs of the other long-dead Dracul seem to have been recently opened. Across the chapel, past the baptismal font where Vlad himself was baptized as a child, you wonder just how this great man could have fallen so far. That's when you realize there is a woman standing against the far wall. You hadn't noticed her when you entered, because her dress is gray, her face is covered with the same ash as the rest of the chapel. She stares at you with unblinking eyes. What are you doing down here? You ask. Her voice is little more than a whisper when she replies, I was married here. You take a step toward her. You're one of the Draculs, you say. She slowly shakes her head no. Are you dead? You ask. She blinked for the first time. Single tears run down either side of her face, washing away ribbons of ash. Then she nods. You take a step closer. Did he kill you? She shakes her head no. Are you one of his guardians? You ask. She closes her eyes. Then she slowly nods. Her voice is even quieter when she replies, But I have failed. How have you failed? You ask, mere feet away from her. Fresh tears run down her cheeks as she says, Because I was guarding his conscience. That stops you in your tracks. What happened to him? You ask. Her eyes slowly open as she looks at you from the deep shadow of her face. He sought to do good deeds. He intended for the Knight of the Dragon to help the innocent, to combat evil, but they have gone astray, persecuting everyone they come across. And the blood of their hands has twisted him, opened his heart to the influence of shadow and night, and he no longer listens to me. Only the howling of wolves and the mewing of his cold women. He is lost. Her eyes wander down to your weapon. Now there is but one last thing which can affect his heart. She reaches a filthy finger to touch your weapon. There is a sudden flash of light blinding you. You step back, rubbing your eyes. When the effects of the flash finally subside, you are alone again in the chapel. Your weapon, however, now seems different, almost as if it were shinier, luminescent in the black chapel. You remember the werewolf press on the back staircase, climbing to the heights of the castle. Alright, no stats gained. At the top of the stairs, you find yourself in a long corridor leading toward a pair of heavy oak doors. You gather your courage and move forward, past the open rooms along the side of the passage. But then one catches your notice. Against your better judgment, you look inside. It's a saloon-type parlor, as dusk and dusty as everything else you've seen in the castle so far. But through the moth-eaten drapes across the far wall, you can make out a painting. On the canvas, a regal couple faced each other, holding hands. Taller of the two figures is a young Vlad, dressed in an opulent and regal uniform, with the ruby encrusted sword sheathed on his hip. Staring into his eyes is a beautiful Transylvanian woman in a royal dress of gold and blue. Your jaw drops. There can be no mistake. You just saw that woman in the chapel downstairs. Vlad's wife? He was married when he was younger. But that's when you feel the slither of chilly fingers across the back of your neck. You spin around, raising your weapon, and yet you find no horrible monster, but three beautiful women in flowing gowns, otherworldly in the moonlight, seeping in from the windows. Give them the flowers you picked up on the way. As the smiling, shapely forms of the three women, I picked the flowers just because I remember what the vampire said earlier. When you have a choice between swords or flower, choose flowers. So that's why I picked flower. I hope it's the right choice. As the smiling, shapely forms of the three women close in on you, you pull out the wild roses from your pocket. At the mere sight of the flowers, the three women leap back in terror, their faces twisting into frightening shapes, full of sharp teeth and piercing red eyes. So, you say, the wild rose does repel the restless dead. The three of them scream curses in Romanian, all of which you understand. Who is that woman in the painting? You demand. Dracula's first wife, kisses the blonde one of the three. He's never been able to let go of her, her purity, her piety. Is that why I saw her in the chapel, you ask? The three glance at you in brief surprise, before shielding their eyes from the mountain flowers again. One of the brunettes hisses. Even from beyond the veil of shadows, she tries to stay his hand, tries to draw him back to the light. Insufferable, even in death. You've heard all you care to hear from these sisters of darkness. Swing your weapon in a mighty arc, chopping all three of their heads from their shoulders. Blood fountains in wild arcs around the room as their bodies collapse to the floor. You drop a rose on each of their corpses, walk out, their heads still wobbling around in the halls outside. There's only one task left to perform. You turn your gaze towards the imposing doors at the end of the hall. Alright. Hopefully we can do this correctly. Covered in the blood of the vampire women, you kick open the heavy doors and walk inside the audience hall of the castle. Three long pikes with sharpened spear points stand in a row along the far wall. Behind them hangs a banner with the symbol of the Knights of the Order of the Dragon. Sitting at the desk in front of them is a man with long dark hair. He looks up from writing as you enter. You recognize the face all too clearly. It's him, Vlad the Impaler. You should not have come here, my friend, he says, setting down his writing quill. You step forward, replying, and you should not have sent me to assemble. The darkness I was meant to find was actually you. Vlad stands up from his chair, looking every bit the man you remember from better days. He says, I have suspected that a great evil was rising, but my knights, no matter how many heathens they killed, no matter how many witches they flayed, no matter how many wicked men Esmiju assassinated, they could not find the source of the evil. So I sent you, the best investigator of the supernatural I have ever known, because I know that if you ever come through those doors, it would confirm what I have grown to suspect, that I had become that great evil. He releases the heavy cape from his strong shoulders to fall to the floor. And tonight you have proven me right. You watch as Vlad's skin cracks and splits, breaking open and slowing off as if a serpent was shedding its outer layer. Gray flesh, muscular and terrible, emerges from beneath. Long black talons end at his fingertips. Symbols of some dead language cover his torso. His face peels away to reveal demonic eyes and saber-like fangs, as bat-like ears extend out from the sides of his head. From his back sprout four membered wings, which flex for the first time. Look upon me, old friend, he says in a hellish voice, and know that you are my final test, the last barrier before my great blood-hewn destiny. Okay, hit the head, hit the heart, paladin charge, blade of the just skew charm, offend. Damn it. You leap forward, swing your mighty blade with both hands, slice the vampire clean through his midsection. Blood explodes out of Vlad's torso. He stumbles backwards, his great wings flapping wildly as he grabs at the gash. How is this possible? He snarls. You wondered the same thing yourself. Then notice a slight glow from your weapon, the same glow that blinded you when the woman in the chapel touched it. With a roar of rage and the swipe of his cursed hand, visible magical force rips the blade from your hands, sending it crashing through a window, falling away into the darkness. Now, Dracula says, standing to his full bleeding height, we shall see what you can do without your enchanted toy. Oh, man. Oh, I don't know what to do. Alright, what happens if we charm? Is this what your wife would have wanted, you ask? The vampire goes strangely still, looking down at you with burning red eyes. You did not know Nadia, he says. Take a step forward. On the contrary, I met her ghost on the way here. On the contrary, I met her ghost on the way here. I saw the way you looked at her in that painting down the hall, and I saw the way she looked at you. This isn't the end she'd want for you. This... He gestured at his new demonic shape. This isn't the man she loved. This isn't the hero of Wallachia, the savior of Transylvania. She wouldn't recognize this creature of darkness, but she wouldn't give up on him either. Throw your weapon to the floor. You are a great man in life. Show her that you can be again. Call off your knights from the temple, turn your back on this darkness, and give her the peace her spirit needs to find eternal rest. You can do that, for Nadia. The vampire stares at you long and hard. At length, the strength goes out of his limbs. The wings fold down to nothing. His skin returns to the color of living flesh. His face becomes the face of the man you once knew. It is too late for me, he says. The darkness cannot be cast aside. But by my actions, I might yet be judged. He points at the desk. I have drafted a letter naming you the new head of the Order of the Dragon. Call them off from their inquisition. Guide them to better works, and place me to rest in the chapel of my forefathers, in the coffin beside my beloved Nadia. Perhaps there, in eternal sleep, I may yet know her arms about me. You follow Vlad back down to the Black Chapel. You watch as he climbs up into the stone sarcophagus built for him many decades ago. He looks up at you one final glance and says, I chose you well. You nod in respect as he closes his eyes. You raise the silver stake over his heart. With a powerful hammer blow, you drive it home. His vampire blood spraying all around it. You then bring your weapon down in a clean chop, chopping his head from his shoulders. Then, as blood fills the coffin, you slide the stone lid shut, lay a final wild rose on top of his coffin. Thank you, comes a whisper from the back of the chapel. Although you do not see Nadia, you can feel her presence there with you. Depleted, you turn toward the stairs. It comes as something of a shock to find the werewolf back in his human form. Kneeling in the doorway, in his husky voice, he asks, What is thy command, master? Okay. The end has come, but there is more left to discover. I guess that's the end. Alright. Well, there's Vlad the Impaler. Took us like 4 tries. Yeah, because one of them was the game froze, so I had to restart. But yeah, there we go. There's Vlad the Impaler. Interesting game. Here's the thing. I like the concept. I like the story. I wish it could be longer. I wish the story I wish it could be longer, and I wish the investigation parts was more detailed and was more of the focus of the story. And I wish that it didn't leave things too much like RNG. Like, I wish that we could, I don't know, it didn't just leave too much to chance. The grammar for the writing needs to be a lot better. If the developers ever see this video, please hire someone to edit, because yeah, you guys have like grammar mistakes constantly. It's not like enough to ruin the story or anything like that, but it helps make the game look, you know, more professional. Other than that, the artwork was pretty good. So I mean, this was an interesting game, and for 99 cents, I think it was worth it. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.